95.7 The Spin, Screaming Eagles sports podcast, Christian.
Nathaniel.
And today, very big podcast, we have Stan Gouard joining us once again to kind of put a wrap on the men's basketball season.
Men had a very successful season despite COVID-19 shelving a majority of their season. They went weeks at a time without being able to play a game, but they did make the NCAA Midwest Regional at the 3 seed, where they defeated Lewis in the first round and then fell to Michigan Tech. So we're going to talk about those games and really just wrap up the season.
Yeah, as well as, of course, we got to talk about the future of USI basketball as well as next season with guys who might be coming back, might not be coming back, what Stan Gouard expects to see next season. So Stan Gouard's in the call. We're going to jump on over to that right now. Just kind of want to put, a wrap on your season and kind of look ahead at next season as far as players and stuff.
Well, of course, this season was not like no other. A lot of challenges, and it wasn't just here at USI, it was across the board. I say it all the time, our administration did an absolutely amazing job with how they did things in terms of just having a plan in place so that we can play the games that we played. You know, there was a lot of stopping and going this year with contact tracing. And, of course, at the end of the season, our team was hit with the COVID outbreak, and we had almost the whole team had COVID or was in quarantine, including coaches. It was difficult, but our guys did a wonderful job. The student athletes, rather, did a wonderful job of, staying the course, keeping hope alive, and wanted to get to our end goal, and that was a national championship. Unfortunately, we fell short. I'm disappointed. It's unacceptable because we're USI, and we're the team that, over the years have had a great deal of success, and we're the team that's supposed to be cutting the nets down, but, Michigan Tech was a better team a couple nights ago. And our guys are a pretty tough group from a resilience standpoint. You think about everything these guys endured this year of not seeing their families since August, not seeing friends all year, was asked to pretty much go to practice, do your homework online, and go back to your room or your apartment and not be out. They sacrificed a lot, and I'm proud of those guys for that. It could have been easy for our guys to quit, everything we dealt with this year, but they hung in there. They love basketball enough, and they love this team and university enough to sacrifice the things that they sacrificed to play the game of basketball. It was a tough season, but again, I think this situation that we dealt with this year in terms of COVID is going to prepare these guys for life after basketball. And I'm 100% sure of that, because I don't know what greater adversity you can face as a person than being in a worldwide pandemic and being asked to do the things that these guys have done this year. Our seniors were great this year. Excuse me. Josh Price, Mateo, and Clayton. I couldn't ask for a better group of seniors to lead this program. They were gym rats. They were vocal leaders. They held guys accountable. They held themselves accountable. And we're not successful without these three guys on our basketball team. I feel like, we hit a couple brick roads with losing the player during the season. We hit a couple brick roads with quarantine. But these guys remained very positive and made sure the rest of the team remained positive in trying to achieve our goal. And I apologize to those guys for not achieving that goal, because I'm their leader. And I know the body of work that these guys have put in this year to achieve that goal. We just fell short. And but our seniors were great leaders, and I'm really excited for these guys' future. I feel like these guys will be great to our society. I think they're going to be great when they go out and either play after college or get a job. But I'm really excited to see what the future brings for our seniors. Next year, I'm really excited about the future of USI basketball. We have a great group coming back in Jelani Simmons, Tyler Henry, Kayshawn Casey, Chance Cole. Who am I missing? Our two freshmen, Elijah and Keegan, along with Tyler Martin, Michael Rogers, Glenn Rowell, and then Jacob Polakovic. You know, I think we'll be a tougher team next year. And in fact, you know, that's the thing we're going to really try to build our culture on here going forward is toughness. You know, last year when I took this job, I didn't have the opportunity to work with these guys in the spring so we can really instill our culture in this program. And I'm really excited about, you know, in what, 10 days, we'll be able to get back on the court with our guys. We have to give them 14 days off. But I'm counting down these 10 days so we can get back on the court and start instilling our culture in this program, you know. And I think the main thing is going to be toughness and defending. You know, I told our guys going into the tournament that the team that's the toughest and the team that defends the best is going to come out on top. And you saw in Truman State last night what they did. So, but I'm excited about developing these guys to prepare ourselves for a national championship next year. You know, our motto next year is going to be unfinished business. And that's going to be, I'm going to say that to our guys every day. In fact, we're going to mention what happened down at the Ford Center a couple of days quite often. I'm sure they're going to get tired of hearing it, but that's going to be my motivation and their motivation to make sure we're not in this situation next year.
You mentioned the motivation. Of course, now the Elite Eight will be played at the Ford Center. Just kind of talk about using all that as fuel as well with it being played right in your backyard.
You know, it adds fuel to the fire, you know, and again, that's another glass of or gas. That's some more gas we're going to put in the fire. You know, this is when they announced that USI was going to be hosting the region international championship, I told our guys, this is about a month ago, I told our guys that this is the USI Invitational, you know, and it'd be a shame if we're not playing in it. And it's a shame we're not playing in it. You know, I'm disappointed. You know, I will not be in this situation next year. But for it to be in our own backyard, I think it's a wake-up call for our guys to see and understand that, you know, this is right here and we're not playing. You know, they should feel a certain kind of way. Last night I went to the championship game to watch Michigan Tech and Truman State. Excuse me. Last night, not that I wanted to go. I wanted to go to that game. I didn't want to go, but I feel like I needed to go to that game so that every day I wake up, you know, I'm preparing myself to get to that moment because, you know, I sat there and watched them play. I think we should have played in that basketball game, but, you know, unfortunately we're not because we didn't play good basketball this weekend. I watched them cut the nets down, you know, and I told myself and I told my wife and daughter that this is going to be us next year. You know, this is why I wanted to go to that game so that I can, you know, see and envy those guys for what they did. And that's going to be my drive every day is to make sure that USI is playing in that championship game next year and advancing to the Elite Eight.
And a question that a lot of people are having and been asking us is about the seniors since the NCAA granted an extra year of eligibility due to COVID-19. A lot of the seniors can get that extra year and would take it would be their fifth year on the team. As of now, do you have any information about your seniors returning for another year, or what's the idea of going around?
I left the door open for those guys to come back next year. I will not and did not want these guys' senior year to end the way it did. And I had the conversation in the preseason with all those guys about the doors open, you know, if you do things the right way. And these three guys are still around, and they've done things the right way all year. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about it again, you know, right when we were in quarantine, we had a lot of downtime. So I talked to our three seniors about, hey, the door is still open, but I need to know something sooner rather than later. And the only guy I do not think is coming back is Josh Price. Clayton announced on my radio show a couple of nights ago that he is coming back. Mateo, about a month ago, said he wanted to come back, and then that could all have changed, you know, since we had our last conversation. But I know for a fact that Josh Price is entertaining professional basketball opportunities. I've been on the phone today with a couple of agents that wants to represent Josh. Talked to a couple of teams about Josh, and over the course of the next week and a half, Josh Price and I will get on the phone or Zoom with some agents to represent him. So I'm very optimistic about Josh's return. And Josh is a guy that told me that, he wants to move on and start his professional basketball career. Josh is an older guy; he's 25 years old, and I understand. I was in that same situation. I was 25 years old when I was a senior, and I understand. He's ready to start. He's ready to start his career, and I support Josh 110%. And I'm going to be in his corner no matter what he decides to do, and I really wish him the best. The other two guys, as I mentioned, they want to come back, and we have to give these guys 10 days off per NCAA rules to kind of regroup, hit the reset button, and then we'll sit down and have some individual meetings after those 10 days are up. But once those 10 days up, my first 3 meetings are going to be with our seniors.
And then Jelani Simmons played really well down the stretch. He was all-region, made the all-region team. Just kind of talk about Jelani, and of course, he'll improve as you guys mature over the next couple of years. But just talk about Jelani and what you expect from him, and just kind of your overall thoughts on Jelani this year.
Well, Jelani came along late for us. He had a lot of good games for us, but just wasn't consistent. And it's no knock on him. It's just the way the game is. And Jelani was great down at the Ford Center. He was great at Lewis. He was great at a couple other games, especially the Rockhurst game. I think it was when he had a career high. And we're going to build on Jelani's success. He did a lot of great things, but he also has a lot to work on. And we're going to put together a plan this the next week or so, and we'll bring Jelani in and talk about his strengths, but also address his weaknesses as a player. And I think Jelani's best basketball is ahead of him. He shoots the heck out of it. He can score it, but now we got to work on some other things so that we can make him a Player of the Year contender next year, because I think he has the tools and capabilities of being great. And it's my job as his coach to get the best out of him, and that's what I'm going to do here this spring.
Since the last time we talked, there's been a couple of verbal commitments to University of Southern Indiana men's basketball, just a few. And as of now, how are you looking to utilize these new recruits into the next year's team?
I can't touch on names yet, because the only guy I can really talk about is Jack Milky, because he signed his letter of intent. I can't talk about the other young men yet, but they're going to be great players, and I'll leave it at that. But I will touch on Jack Milky. Jack is a stretch four. He can really, really shoot the basketball. He's going to help us space the court. A great student, takes his academics very serious, and I think he's going to be a tremendous asset to this program in the years to come. But he's going to be a kid that we can put in ball screens. He'll be able to knock down open jump shots. He really, really stretches the floor. And I'm really excited about just bringing another guy to the table that can shoot the basketball, because I think anytime you can secure a guy like Jack that can shoot the basketball, it makes your team better.
And obviously, you guys were in quarantine, missed the GLV season at the last couple games of the regular season, and that definitely plays effect into your guys' performance at the regional. Just kind of talk about, I guess, if you hadn't missed that time, if you think you guys would still be playing, or how that all would have played out for you.
Well, I think it messed up our timing, as you can see in the tournament here at the Ford Center. Yeah, we didn't take care of the ball very well. And now, granted, we haven't done it all year, but some of the mistakes we made at the Ford Center were timing. Guys not playing in 28, 29 days. The shots that we missed, I think it had a lot to do with guys just not being in the tip-top shape that they were in before we went into quarantine. But at the end of the day, like I told someone last night, everybody was worried about legs. Our guys being tired, rather. These guys are 22 years old, and I think there was a little bit more in the tank. Now, granted, there was also a lot of other things going on. Mateo hurt his big toe on Saturday night, and as you saw in the basketball game, he played off the basketball. You move Jelani to the point guard, you move Mateo to the shooting guard, so he don't have to move as much. So there was a lot of other things going on, but no excuses. We just couldn't get the job done. Michigan Tech was a better team, and I'm a guy who does not make excuses. And at the end of the day, when you start looking at the basketball game, you can't look at what happened. You look at the W and the L, and we took the L. And we learned from it, just like we learned from our wins, and we just try and get better. But our guys competed at a high level. We just couldn't get the job done.
And how would you rate your performance as a coach this season?
unacceptable. I'm not happy with where we ended, but at the same time, I get it. We in a pandemic. We had a lot going on this year. We had a winning season, but we didn't win the championship. We didn't win the conference championship. We didn't win the region championship. So I always talk about the players getting better, but we as coaches have to get better too. And nobody's harder on me than myself. I'm always finding ways, trying to get better. I've already started watching our season this year, and I'm watching it now to critique myself to see what I could have done better in certain situations to make this team better. And I have a ton of notes, and trust me, as good as many people think I was, or as bad as many people think I was, I'll be better next year. I know I will. I just, got to go back and look at some of the things we did in certain situations, look at myself and how I handled certain situations, and we'll be fine. I think USI is back on the map. And, I can't say back on the map because we've always been on the map. But I think USI is going to be bigger and better, stronger and faster next year.
Someone who played a lot during the regional that I don't think really any of us expected was Tyler Martin. He played some really good minutes for you guys, especially against Lewis, and he played some good minutes against Michigan Tech too. Just kind of talk about Tyler and if you expect his role to increase in the team next season as well.
Well, it depends on what Tyler does in the offseason. This is very important offseason for a lot of our guys because, we're bringing new guys into this program that could potentially take some guys' minutes. So the offseason is very important to everybody. And you mentioned Tyler Martin. Tyler doing this, he was probably the one guy that mostly benefited from the quarantine because Tyler, he had a high ankle sprain prior to the COVID. He had missed a couple months of practice and did not play. But that high ankle sprain restricted Tyler from practicing. And once we went into quarantine, we had 6 players that was able to come in and work out with the coaching staff. And Tyler Martin started healing after a couple of days off and came in and started working harder than anybody who was back. He was in the gym day in, day out just to try to get some extra shots up because Tyler wanted to play. He's a competitor. And then once guys came back from quarantine and we was able to practice with the whole team, Tyler stood out to me. He was really good running that scout team, and I looked over and told my assistant coaches that we're going to put Tyler in the basketball game. In fact, Tyler had passed Glenn in practice because Glenn Rao was playing quite a bit, but Tyler had started to, play better than Glenn in practice that week. And so I told the coaching staff that, hey, man, we got to get Tyler a shot because I think he can stretch the floor for us. And he goes into the ball game, and his first catch is an open corner jump shot, and he knocks it down. And then, a few plays later, he hits another jump shot in the opposite corner. And that's been Tyler all year in practice. You guys just haven't seen it. But, I think if Tyler puts in the work this summer, get his body in a good place, get a little bit quicker, he can help us out because he can really, really shoot the basketball. And he's got to apply himself more. I think his confidence level's got to increase because he's the one guy that if he misses a couple of shots, he hangs his head or he gets down on himself. And I remember when he went into that basketball game on against Lewis a couple of days ago, I told him, I asked him, I said, what's your job? He said, I'm a shooter. I said, okay, when you go in a basketball game, anytime you get an open look, shoot the basketball, you're going to come out of the basketball game. And he shot that first shot with no hesitation, and it was all net. And I'm really proud of him for what he was able to come in and do in that basketball game because those 6 points meant a lot because we won by two points. You take away his 6 points, we lose by 4.
And a guy that really was more of a dark horse this season, Tyler Henry, got a lot of minutes, started a lot of games. What do you have to say about the way he played this year?
Well, Tyler, he sacrificed so much this year because if you look at Tyler's numbers before he came to USI, he was a 15-point scorer at his previous institution. And he came in here and he took a backseat to Josh, took a backseat to Clayton, took a backseat to Mateo. And what I can say about Tyler Henry, he's a team player. Not many transfers or many guys are going to come in and say, hey, I can score just as much as you can. I'm gonna take a backseat to you guys. And I'm really proud of Tyler for that. And I think, when you talk about a team player, Tyler that's Tyler Henry. He became the guy that did what the team needed him to do, and that's defend. And when he should have been on the all defensive team along with Chance Coyle. But Tyler Henry guarded the other team's best player night in and night out and took tremendous pride in shutting guys down. And, once we can get him to, get his basketball Jones back on the offensive end, I think Tyler's going to be really good for us.
Look ahead to next season, and a lot of talent, of course, coming back and some talent coming in, but especially at the center spot, Jacob Polakovich, Tyler Dancy, you might have Josh Price back, Keegan O'Neal will be back as well. Just kind of talk about the competition that you'll have there at center and how those guys can all make each other better.
It's always good to have a number of guys at one position because guys can't get comfortable because someone's looking over their shoulder. And when you have a guy like, Jacob Polakovich, for example, he went through that at UND with me a couple of years ago when I took him. We brought in Kendrick Tashua, and Jacob wasn't getting it done, and I started Kendrick, and throughout the year we swapped those two guys out as starters all year because of either some guys playing better or other guys just not getting it done. And when you can recruit multiple guys in one position, guys do not get comfortable, and it makes the body better. I think the best thing that happened to Tyler Dancy was the addition of Kayshawn Casey. When Kayshawn Casey came into the program, Tyler Dancy knew that if I don't get my stuff together, Kayshawn Casey's taking my minutes. And I think Kayshawn Casey lit a fire under Tyler Dancy to start, doing what Tyler Dancy does. And that's why Tyler Dancy had the second part of the season that he had. And I think it's because of Kayshawn Casey.
And a few weeks ago, the all GLVC teams were announced: MVP, all defensive team, first and second and third. A couple of your guys were named on the first team along with the second team. Do you feel like that was a respectable, honoree, or do you feel like though it should have been mixed up a little bit more?
I don't know. I'm kind of biased towards that. You look at that list of guys. You have guys on the list whose team haven't won very much on that first team list. And I've always been a believer in, you put the best players on the list. You don't try to put two or three from every team. I feel like Jelani Simmons got snubbed this year. And this is my opinion. Okay, granted, I don't want anybody to think I'm a basketball guru or no. It's a biased situation. Anyway, I think Jelani Simmons got snubbed. I think Josh Price should have been player of the year, but of course, you look at over the years in our league, of course, they always give that award to the team that won the conference champion. The conference champs. And McKnight won it. He was a great player, and maybe I'm biased because it's my guys, but I think Jelani Simmons should have been on that team, on one of those teams. I think Josh Price should have been player of the year. I think Chance and Tyler Henry should have been on the all defensive team. That's my opinion. But I'm not a big fan of the way it's voted. I feel like when we finished second, I think, in the GLVC, and I feel like, the top two teams should have the most guys on those lists and not picking two guys from every team to make that list.
And you mentioned the 10 or 14 days, I can't remember what you said, before you can get your guys back on the court. Whenever you do get your guys back on the court, what's focus number one for you guys?
Well, focus number one is academics. We have fell short from academic standpoint due to travel, due to quarantine. So we got to get these guys back on par with academics. Midterm grades came out last week, and we got a couple guys that's got to get caught up. So we're right now putting a plan together in place to get these guys in a good place from an academic standpoint. And then from a basketball standpoint, I think my main priority is, again, building our culture. That's academics, character, basketball, and it's going to fall in that order. We're never going to sacrifice academics and character for basketball. So we're going to start putting our culture in place. We didn't have a chance to do it last year because I took the job so late. We're in COVID, and we couldn't have any basketball activities until October. So we were way behind eight ball, and it's everybody in the country is behind eight ball. But taking a new job during the pandemic, I wouldn't recommend that for anybody because you have so much work to do. I think that's why Truman State Truman State were really good because they've been together for a while, But we'll focus on those two things, and then on the court. I think from a team standpoint, we got to be better defensively. We got to be more consistent. I think our footwork has got to get better in terms of being able to defend on the ball. So agility is going to be our friend. I'm sure our guys are going to hate it, but we have to work on our agilities to get quicker on the basketball. I think we have to get stronger. We have to do a better job of being able to play through tough times. When things don't go our way, we struggle from a mental standpoint as a team. So we're going to put these guys in some situations this year, in the spring rather, where we're going to fatigue them, and then we're going to ask them to do something not ordinary in practice, where it's going to be challenging from a mental standpoint, because I think basketball is 90% mental. So we're going to go there. We got to improve in rebounding. So we got to do a lot of rebounding drills with a medicine ball and help these guys understand how important every single possession is. And then we got to focus on guys' individual skill set from a basketball standpoint. We got to get smarter. We got to value the ball more. We got to go back to my old rules of when you turn the basketball over in practice, that's a down and back sprint in practice. So we got to do that. But we have to increase. We got to do a better job rather with our basketball IQ in terms of taking care of the basketball, understanding time score situations. So we got to do a lot of scenarios so these guys understand, like, hey, we ain't scored in 5 minutes. Okay, now we got to do this. You know what I mean? So I think that's important. But we have to really, really focus on each individual guy. For example, Jelani Simmons. I think he needs to work on his left hand. He's got to, build 10 pounds of muscle. He's got to get quicker with his feet. Chance Cool, same thing. He's got to, work on his left hand. He's got to, work on his agility to get quicker. And then he's got to shoot the basketball more. We took him off the basketball this year and made him a shooting guard, and I think that really helped him out. But we got to focus on guys' individual weaknesses as well as strengths and try to build on both those.
And when you accepted the head coaching job at USI, really almost a year ago, you brought along assistant coach Spruance, and it seemed right away that he got along with every player on the team. It really looked like he was making connection with every player along with the coaching staff. How would you describe his relationship with you on the coaching staff and then with the players?
Well, listen, everything starts up top, and that's me. And if my relationship with the guys isn't right, then I'm sure the other guys on the staff relationship wouldn't be great. And I'm a family guy, and I believe in great relationships with our student athletes. And Sprue knows that, and Sprue knows, Kevin knows, and so does John Aldridge. They understand what I'm all about and what my morals and values are. And that's making sure these guys have a great experience. And I feel like my coaching staff has done a great job of making sure that, what I expect and demand is done every day. And the relationship with the student athletes, I think, is in a pretty good place. Now, it took a while to get here because we're new. They didn't know us, they didn't trust us, and it took a while. But I think with some of the things we did this season with our team, especially on the road, it helped those guys to understand us and who we are as people. But it also helped us to understand them in terms of, their backgrounds, how they're going to react in certain situations, how to talk to them, how to treat them. And so is it great? No, but it's in a great place, I think. And there's always room for improvement with everybody. And we're going to sit down as coaches. I do a player evaluation every year with the student athletes. I'll ask them a series of questions on a piece of paper. You don't put your name on it. And we'll ask about the team. But there's also some questions about the coaches. And I've been doing it this way for 18 years. And sometimes some of the things they say hurt, but at the same time, it's the truth. And I'm a truthful person, and I want these guys to be able to express themselves so that I can get better. I sit in there and talk to my guys about what they have to do, to be better players. And I want those guys to be able to have the same opportunity to tell me, what can I do to be a better coach? What can Sprue do to be a better coach? What can Aldi and Kevin Gant do to be better coaches? It goes both ways, and whatever they say or put on that piece of paper, trust me, we're going to sit down as coaches and talk about it so that we can be better for our guys just as much as we want those guys to be better for us.
And one of my final questions, just kind of if you can think of one word to just describe this season and your players, what would that word be and why?
I need a second to think about that one. You should have texted me that question. So, resilient. I think this group of guys I had this year was very resilient. You know, like I said earlier in this podcast, these guys have been through a lot. They sacrificed a lot, and it takes a special kind of person to be able to get through what these guys have been through. You know, we've had a lot of conversations. I've had a lot of conversations with our guys one-on-one. And there's been some mental breakdowns, in the hotel rooms. You know, we laughed together, we cried together. And but, somehow we found a way to, fight through the tough times. So these guys are very resilient from top to bottom. And again, like I said a second ago, I think this year is going to help these guys out when they start their life after basketball with families or playing, because it's just been a lot. And I praise my student athletes for the sacrifices they've made and what they've given to this university and to this program. And I will be forever grateful to those guys for that.
All right, I think that's everything that we have. Want to thank you once again for joining us, of course, today and all season long. You guys have been great with us, battling through everything. We really appreciate everything you guys have done for us.
All right, thank you guys, and thank you guys for covering us, man. I know, it's been a long year, and I think you guys do a wonderful job. And if you ever need me back on the show or need me to do anything on your end, do not hesitate to call me. Okay, you guys have my cell phone number, and I'm always a text or phone call away. But great job this year, man, and next year it'll be bigger and better. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you,
right.
Coach.
Have a great spring in the classroom, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
That was the Screaming Eagles Sports Podcast. Christian, Nate, of course, Coach Gouard. Want to once again take a huge thank you to Coach Gouard for spending the time with us today, as he has done all season long. I know me in particular, I've had a lot of interviews with Coach Gouard, and what's been a turbulent time, of course, for USI basketball all season long. Really want to thank him for his transparency and everything that he's done for everybody at 95.7 The Spin.
And again, just to recap, Coach Gouard's looking forward to next season, looking to do bigger and better things, adding some guys, but also losing a couple star players. Again, Josh Price is on the fence about returning, could go into professional ball. Clayton Hughes, Mateo Rivera still looking to come back, but we'll be updating the news on our Facebook and Twitter accounts at 95.7 The Spin Sports.
Not 95.7 The Spin Sports. At The Spin Sports.
You're right.
So follow us on Twitter at The Spin Sports and on Facebook, 95.7 The Spin Sports on Facebook. There you go. But I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Of course, that just kind of puts a big bow on the basketball season. Once again, a huge thank you to everybody with USI basketball, USI athletics in general, for making this one a successful one. For Nate, for Coach Gouard, I'm Christian signing off. You've been listening to the Screaming Eagles Sports Podcast.